I mean, this is something that at some point in your life, I think every man should take a look at, because first of all, it focuses a man on mission and purpose. It gives a frame for my entire life. What's my life about? And then I get to see, where is my life truing up to that frame and where is it not? And then I can begin to do the difficult emotional work that helps me true it up. The women's movement historically wasn't about internal work. I mean, there was a certain amount of it, obviously, but it was primarily rooted in social and political issues, you know, equal pay for equal work, equal political power, more egalitarian family style, not the woman as a piece of chattel and the man as lord and master. The men's work is much more focused on the inner domain. I mean, we've had the political power, we've had the economic power, and we've sold our souls for it. So this is about creating our self-worth rather than building our net worth. And so in that way, it's really a very much internal movement. And I think that's the primary difference. And just like the women's movement, I mean, there was a lot of anger toward men in the early days of the women's movement when women were waking up. It's not unsurprising to see men waking up and say, my God, I've been giving my power away to my mother for 16 years, or my father. And having some anger sometimes come up, although I think grief is a much more common response. But you got to get past that initial explosion. That's just letting the pressure off the lid and then say, okay, now what are we going to do about it going forward? I mean, healing family of origin is great, and we all have to do that. But then the real important work is turning around and building our family of destiny after we've healed the family of origin. I'd like to expand the definition of family so that it doesn't just mean those that I'm blood related to. This is very emotional for me. If there's some man's son who is being discriminated against, starving, murdered, economically or politically oppressed, then that's my family. That's my brother. That's my nephew. And I won't stand for it. So I would like to see the men's movement is get back to the kind of world-changing, generative role models we used to be, rather than just making sure we got our pension and our insurance policy and that my immediate family is happy. What about everybody else's family? And that's actually the best way of keeping my family healthy, because they're not going to want to try to, fly a plane into my buildings in my country or take my kid hostage, or I don't have to gobble up all the world's resources. We can learn to share. And I think doing this work and really changing the world and changing the world family, recognizing that all men and women are brothers and sisters, that's the beginning of the dawn and the end of night, in my opinion. There's a great old rabbinic story. This is just with that last line I said. This rabbi asked his students, he says, when do you think, we know that night begins when the sun sets, and you can see the first 3 stars. That's the beginning of night. But what's the beginning of dawn? And one student says, well, perhaps it's when we can tell the difference between a man and a woman walking, through a field. And another student says, well, I think it's when we can see the outline of a tree silhouetted against the sky. And somebody else said, I think when we can distinguish whether a dog or cat is coming toward us on the road. The rabbi said, well, those are all good examples, but I say this to you, that it is when we look into each other's eyes and realize that we are all brothers and all sisters and all one. That's the end of the night and the beginning of the dawn.